Thanks for listening to GODDAB Radio, a podcast for progressive thinking people. I'm Mad Dog Manser, and I'm here to bring you relevant and honest news and information I find compelling. Our show is often about cannabis, but not strictly. We will cover a number of other issues depending on what's happening, and we'll feature guest interviews regularly. At GODDAB Radio, we are ferociously progressive, fiercely skeptical, and vehemently scientific with a no-nonsense attitude. Today is Friday, January 27th, and we have a show with two interviews for you today. First, we have Anthony Taylor, the president of Compassionate Oregon, for our first segment. He has information on a couple of the big bills in Salem that are already introduced, and news on a video project they are doing to raise awareness of the difficulties medical marijuana patients have. In our second segment, we are going to be discussing Portland homelessness, especially the problems faced in bad weather. 7 or 8 people died just this last cold spell from freezing to death, and we will have Portland activist Jacob Bueros on to discuss the issue. We want to thank our sponsors for helping make GODDAB Radio possible. Honey Badger Sungrown, the finest sun-grown cannabis in Oregon. Southern Oregon Alternative Medicine, serving medical marijuana patients in Oregon for 16 years. And a thank you to Portland guitar master Eric Sky for allowing us to use his song, One for the Green, to open our show. So our first segment here is going to be our interview with Anthony Taylor of Compassionate Oregon. Anthony has been long active in the cannabis movement in Oregon, way back into the 1980s, and he's the president of Compassionate Oregon. And we discussed quite a few things, some of the bills, and we also discussed a video project that they have going on that's going to be a really good project, I think. So here you go. All right, we're glad to have joining us here on our show Anthony Taylor from Compassionate Oregon. Anthony has been a writer for my newspaper, the Oregon Cannabis Connection, for quite a few years, covering our legislature, and he is always a patient advocate and doing everything he can to defend patient rights, and he's going to give us an update on what's going on there in the Capitol. So how you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're glad to have you on. Thanks for joining us. So we've got, at this point, the count on the Oregon Legislature website is 17 bills in the Joint Marijuana Committee. Is that 17 or 18 at this point? Is that about what you're seeing too?
Yeah, 17 or 18 that are coming directly through the committee, and there's another 3 or 4 that are coming from outside the committee. For instance, it hasn't come out of the committee. Let me back up a second. One of the bills introduced by Senator Burdick, which has gone to the Veterans Committee, will provide those veterans with a disability a free card. But other than that, there's 17 bills coming through the committee and 3 or 4 others that are outside of the committee. So we're looking at about 21 or 22 bills right now that have been introduced under the header of marijuana or cannabis.
Right, and people, of course, they can find out that information at the Oregon Legislature website, which has a pretty powerful database. You can go in and search the current session, and I usually search both the House and Senate bills for both marijuana and cannabis when I search to make sure I try to cover all the bases.
Right, absolutely, and it's a really good system. You enter your search words under text. There's the drop-down menu provides bill number, text, and sponsor. And so if you click the tab for text and enter the keyword into the search engine, it will bring you back every bill that has that keyword mentioned in it.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful tool. Some of the bills are minor in scope, I know, and don't deal with a whole lot, but a few of them are major, as we were discussing before we went on the air here. And why don't we start with some of those more large scope ones, dealing with like new commissions and that sort of thing?
Well, let me just start by saying that Compassionate Oregon, with the help of the committee, has introduced House Bill 2198, which is very similar to a bill sponsored also and introduced by Representative Leininger. They're both about 320 pages long, but really most of the bills are just conforming amendment language changes. The heart of the bills, both of those bills are only about 40 pages out of all of that. But when they do something like this, they got to go through and amend every statute where a name change has to be adopted. So it makes the bill pretty good size. But nonetheless, those are two bills that are pretty much the same size, do pretty much the same thing. However, the difference between Representative Leininger's bill and Compassionate Oregon's bill is that Leininger's bill sends the medical marijuana growers to OLCC. Ours does not. And ours creates the Medical Cannabis Board, which will take over the administration of the OMMP, managing the card, the registry, and also overseeing the personal medical marijuana growers, the people that are growing 6 or 12 plants. It also increases the possession limit for patients from 24 ounces to 6 pounds per plant. And
nice.
The other thing that our bill does, Leininger's bill moves all the medical marijuana growers over to OLCC. Ours does not. It keeps the personal medical growers under the OMMP, under the Medical Cannabis Board, and the people that are growing for more than 4 patients will be required to register with the Department of Agriculture, and in much the same way that the hemp growers are now registered. It gets rid of all the plant limits on gardens that were adopted under 3400, and so going to the Department of Ag, notwithstanding local jurisdictions and ordinances, once you register with the State Department of Agriculture and have all your cards, you can grow for as many patients as you want. If you want to grow for 40 patients, you can grow 240 plants.
Okay, I like that concept. So what you've done with this bill is something that I've been saying probably for over 2 years is, although not publicly until recently, is the Oregon Health Authority needs to be removed from this picture, especially when it comes to cultivation.
Absolutely. The cultivation that's administered by the OHA and the OLCC is way outside their agency, what do they call it? The
scope of what they, or what they should be doing. I mean, they don't have the facilities or the knowledge or anything to be able to deal with.
That's correct, and you can see how that's affected everybody with the testing and the pesticide issues that the Oregon Department of Agriculture is very familiar with and has a good handle on. And we do give the Department of Agriculture some latitude in controlling the size of a garden. You know, if they got somebody that's growing 3,600 plants or whatever, they might have an issue. They might discuss that with the grower. And the people that are part of that program will have to do some reporting, kind of like what they're doing now.
Right.
As far as I've also discussed with OLCC maybe creating a couple of medical marijuana reporting pages within the metric system, but that remains to be seen. They are required to do some reporting under the statute that exists that was what set up the metric system and the seed-to-sale stuff, but there's nothing in the legislation, either passed in the last couple of years or in this legislation, that requires a seed-to-sale tracking system.
Right,
and I worry that if the state is successful in moving all medical growers into the OLCC system, I just worry that we're going to be faced with having 6 and 12 plant people having to have a camera or report into the OLCC. And I just think it's important that we insulate the medical program as much as possible from the recreational program, given that we're going to have a new Attorney General here shortly, and we're not sure how that is going to affect cannabis overall, cannabis recreationally, cannabis medically, or the CBDers that are growing hemp and producing CBD oils from hemp.
Well, we know
we've got some concerns concerns there, and it's really important that we insulate our medical program, and that's why our bill literally takes the administration of the OMMP program away from OHA proper and vests in the Medical Use of Cannabis Board. Now, that board is still under the agency banner of the OHA, but the OHA can't do anything. They can't issue cards. They can't do any of that stuff, and that all falls under the purview of this newly created board, which has rulemaking authority and can propose legislation, and they want to talk to the head of the OHA, and she doesn't want to talk. They can subpoena her and bring her before the committee to answer questions. So what this bill does, in a sense, is it elevates the ACMM to a state board. It changes the dynamics a little bit, because now instead of the members being appointed by the director of the OHA, they're appointed by the governor. It's a 9-member board. There has to be a patient and an attending physician and a caregiver and maybe a grower and a research person, all that sort of stuff. And they all have to be advocates of medical marijuana. It can't be some substance abuse person on this board that says, well, marijuana is addictive.
Right. And
we have to make sure we keep it out of the hands of small children, and all those sorts of arguments that come in with somebody that doesn't necessarily support it. Now, just because they support it doesn't mean they still don't have public safety issues,
Sure, but that doesn't mean
we've all got to be careful about that, right?
Yeah, but we hear those arguments all the time when people are, they're not listening to the main argument. It's not as if we want children to get cannabis or think they should. I think, but worrying about the name of the cannabis product as if a 3-year-old can read or ever even saw the Grape Ape cartoon or even knows what that is ridiculous, especially when you've got liquor stores selling liquor that has popsicle names and stuff like that. It's just not fair. They need to be even-handed.
There's conflicting messages sent by our state agencies every day.
Yeah.
And the other issue that's really kind of went under the radar is, they're trying to treat the medical products like a commercial or commerce, and because of that, they remove the ability of 18, 19, and 20-year-old patients to grow their own medicine.
Right.
And so we got to get that back, too.
So let's move on to these other bills that are these larger scope ones. I know that Leininger's was a lot like yours, so let's just move on to talk maybe about Ferriole's. Sure. I know that Ferrioli was the one who ended up giving us our red state, green state, basically, with the whole eastern section of the state going against cannabis, and then some of them have come around, but he's actually introduced another commission kind of bill as well, right?
Yeah, he's introduced Senate Bill 300, which establishes the Oregon Cannabis Commission to fulfill the duties, functions, and powers relating to medical use of marijuana, and directs the OHA to transfer all those duties. It also requires the OLCC to sit down with this new commission and decide which ones of its duties that this commission will take over. I've been struggling for a couple of years now here with the division of responsibilities. As a longtime project manager on construction sites, I know that it doesn't make any sense to have plumbers hanging drywall or the HVAC guys, installing the sinks or the toilets in the bathrooms. And it's kind of what we have going on right now. It makes no sense to me that the OLCC is the one that issues a research certificate.
Right.
It makes no sense to me that once a lab has completed ORLAP accreditation, that they still have to go to the OLCC and spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for an OLCC license just so that they can come in and make sure all the cameras are in the right place. It's a revenue generating issue, and I really think that once you've been accredited by ORLAP, that's the end of discussion. Maybe you get a $300, $500 endorsement from the OLCC just so that the camera's in the right place, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's just
revenue. It's just revenue. They're just looking to milk the beast, to take their pound of flesh say it how you will. It all works out to being the same.
But I will say that there are some good things in his bill and things that I would like to see adopted and would be amenable to including in our bill. For instance, in setting up his commission, one member has to come from each quadrant of the state. I didn't even think about that when I was, creating our board, but that's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea. That's not. Spoken
representation from Pendleton.
Well, that's because he's from over there. That's why he feels left. He's flyover country, and he doesn't want to be feeling that way. So he's trying to flex some muscles for those folks out there, which is fine, I guess, if that's what it needs to be.
There's another bill that's kind of interesting. It's a little one-pager. It's I don't know who introduced it but it was requested to be introduced by the Portland Normal Group, and it provides that conditioning employment or on refraining from using any substances lawful to use is an unlawful employment practice. So that gets rid of drug testing for THC in the workplace.
Right, that just broke. That news broke a couple of days ago that was out. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
that's really good.
It is
move.
good. It's going to be a tough sell, but we fully support that. We've advocated for changes in drug testing policy in the workforce. Now, if you're working and you're doing state and federal jobs, you have to have a written drug policy in place. But that doesn't mean that you have to test for cannabis, which is one of the most expensive parts of that test panel. But it really is important, and this ties into things like not being able to get a daycare license because you have a medical marijuana card. These are the sorts of policy issues that we here at Compassionate Oregon feel are important and really need to be addressed, because regardless of the fact that, a medical marijuana patient may not have access to what he needs by going to a store, that's kind of a minor issue compared to the discrimination they face when interacting with the Oregon medical establishment, and things like doctors not prescribing pain meds because you're using cannabis, or like Blumenauer's office told me the other day, a girl called in and said, my dialysis doctor said not only can I not use cannabis, I have to tear up my card. And these are the sorts of things, and the policy, or being kicked out of your pain management clinic because you test positive for THC.
Right.
These are the sort of policy changes we need to craft some legislation to help them get through. We do not expect to dictate to a physician who and how they can administer their patient. We can't force them to do something that they don't really want to do. On the other hand, policy administrators shouldn't be able to do that either. And so that's part of a bill that I'm working on right now that I hope to have introduced. That will be another version of our patient rights bill that we had introduced in 2015. And that is, to just kind of springboard on that, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, I believe, this is why we're putting together the video presentation we're working on right now, is to help bolster our position to convince these the members of the healthcare committees in both chambers, that we really need to start talking about this. We really need to figure out how physicians are going to deal with patients that come in and ask them about cannabis, and how we educate those doctors, and how we make the policies stand alone so that medical marijuana patients aren't discriminated against. And it's coming to the forefront. The Oregon Medical Association last October had their annual public policy forum where they addressed cannabis. It wasn't very...
it was not particularly well presented. Let me put it that way.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right.
There
was nobody there from the OMMP program. There was nobody there that was a patient on their panels or any of that sort of stuff. There was no attending physicians like the Knoxes, who have a clinic for doctors, where they come in and deal with cannabis patients. But they are taking a step in the right direction. And my point is that it's not just the medical marijuana patients, the card holders anymore, that they can kind of push off into a corner and ignore, or
right.
policies that nobody's really going to object to because it's just medical marijuana patients. Now they're being confronted with patients like my 80-year-old father, who asks his physician if there's something in cannabis that can help him with his COPD. And those doctors have to be able to, one, answer those questions, and if they can't answer those questions, refer them to a specialist that can.
Right,
and,
right.
You know, right now we have 17,000 Oregon Health Plan patients in the medical marijuana program. And some of those primary care physicians will write the authorization, sign the authorization. And so in a sense, you know, rather than going to a clinic and paying $200, they went to their primary care physician, OHP picked up the clinic visit, and they got their card signed. So there's no reason that all of these OHP patients shouldn't be able to have that same privilege, and it should extend to, if the doctor doesn't want to do that for you, you give him the name of the doctor from your local medical marijuana clinic, and he refers you to it, and OHP pays for the visit because it's a referral. So, you know, there's all kinds of horror stories about insurance agencies like OHP and Medicare, Medicaid being slow paying and all that. But it is a step in the right direction, and it begins to lay the foundation for having further conversations. Okay, what kind of curriculum do these physicians need to be able to, at least at a minimum, answer a couple of questions? And, you know, how do we elevate the cannabis clinics? And we've lost two, the Compassion Center and Mama's in Portland. How do we elevate those to the, you know, to become a referral clinic? You know, one that's professional enough that the professional medical community in the state feels comfortable making a referral to.
Right. I think that's
these are
key.
a lot of issues that face patients that have not a doggone thing to do with industry, except industry should realize that the people that got them to where they are still suffering at the hands of the medical community.
Well, there's a lot of indifference there in the industry, I know. I mean, I'm just saying, there's a lot of indifference.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I made the point, is because they're short and coming to the table. You know, they say, you know, a number of these people say, yeah, we're taking care of patients and all that. Well, sort of. You know, you're selling them product, you know, but you're not really taking care of the patients. Like Clifford Spencer, for instance, his patients, he sees them 3 or 4 times a month. And some of these, I actually call them abusers of the OMMP, see their patients once a year. And they certainly don't ask them how it's doing for them, what kind of relief they're getting, put it in their chart notes. Clifford Spencer has been doing this for 17 years, and he has 17 years of chart notes on cannabis and how it helps his patients and what particular delivery modality works best for patient A and patient B and patient Z. Got it all documented, and this is part of what we're trying to bring forward.
Yeah, tell us. We need to go into that a little, I think. We're getting a little short on time. So, I mean, this video that you're producing, Clifford is one of the featured people in this production, and you've got some others that are going to be in it.
Absolutely, I have felt that. Excuse me. That Clifford Spencer is one of the only people in the state that's actually working the program as it was intended. Meaning, if you can't grow for yourself, somebody else can. And those people are your caregivers, and they make sure that you're getting what you need and in a timely fashion, and you don't have to suffer because you can't get it at the dispensary for the next 4 days, kind of thing.
Right.
And they take their leaf into a processor now and get it turned into oil so they can make their capsules and all that. And so he's been doing it for 17 years, and I just really felt it was very important to have his story on tape.
That's good. I mean, his story is compelling. Yeah.
It's hard for me sometimes. I get emotional about this, but there are a couple of places during his interview where he visibly chokes up because of, you know, the benefits that these patients are receiving, and some of the, you know, he's treated over 400 patients during these 17 years. Yeah. So this is an important part, and we hope that the committee members will realize this. And so, but because of filming him, because he deals with residential care facility patients and the hospice, AIDS hospice patients. And so he's been working with our house in Portland for, like I said, 17 years, almost 2 decades. And because of his work, we're now going to be able to interview the nursing director of our house in Portland. Because of him, we're able to, interview the Knoxes and how they deal with, their clinic and their patients. We have somebody that's in one of the doctors is an emergency room physician.
That's awesome.
Dr. Janice Knox is a longtime anesthesiologist, and their daughters are the ones that got the whole cannabis MDs program going, and so we were able to interview them. And then, like I said, the nursing director of our house is willing to sit down and for an interview, and through that we get to interview half a dozen patients that really exemplify how well cannabis works for them.
Right. Now, you're still looking to help pay for this, though, because this is a professional video production that you did, and
absolutely,
and it wasn't cheap.
Hired McDermott Studios, who has just about everybody knows in this state through their work at conferences and other projects that people have helped. I mean, they've helped with OHSU. They've done some work for Peace Health.
They're the ones that are
very reputable. I just had a meeting earlier this morning with Michael, and we're set to interview, like I said, the director of our house in Portland this week, a couple of patients next week, and our goal is to have this ready. We're not pushing exactly for the day session starts, but within the first 10 to 14 days, and then we're going to be the Cannabis Collaborative Conference here in Portland in February. We will have a table there, and we'll be showing the video there. And
great.
It's just really important. It's really important work. We're hoping that we'll have it in a couple of different formats, so we can drop a 45 or 60-second quick little video on Senator Burdick's social media page, or on the chairs of, like Mitch Greenlick, Chair Greenlick.
People like
social media site, so they can see this, and then we'll bring the 3 to 5 minute video into their mailbox, and then it will end up being about a 12-minute video that we can use in presentations for healthcare organizations and hospice organizations and things of that nature. So we're really, I just can't emphasize enough how pleased we are with the work being done for us by McDermott Studios.
That's great.
And their dedication to
McDermott is the one doing. They're doing the Oregon State of Cannabis movie, right? The film.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So everybody, like you said, a lot of people are real familiar with that. So how would people?
A lot of us have been interviewed by them already. So, and that's important too, because we can go back, because they interviewed. Their name is slipping my mind right now, but the person that was involved with the OHSU study about pain management with cannabis. They've got tape on her already, so through
okay, so
agreements, we can use a little bit of that.
Yeah. How can people get a hold of?
Really excited.
How can people get a hold of you and pay and help you pay for this film that you're making? I mean, we're real short on time now, so we got to tell people
sure.
what
they can get the information off of a number of Facebook pages, including OCC's, and all of those direct them to go to compassionateoregon.org, where they can make a donation. And I would just like to thank the 4 people yesterday that made contributions. It really helps. It gives us a little bit of, spring to our step that the money's really coming in, and I keep dialing for dollars, but that's the best way. Go to compassionateoregon.org and make a contribution. And everything that comes in here in the next 10 to 14 days is targeted for this project specifically. We're not going to use that money for anything else.
Okay.
So
all right.
Come to our website.
All right, that's perfect. And so everybody knows, compassionateoregon.org is the place to go. And just on the right side, there's a PayPal button you can use to donate and support this project. You're looking at needing to raise like $4,500, and you're nowhere near that now. You still need $3,000 or $4,000 of that still, right? So
Yeah, that's correct. We're at about 1,500 right now, and we have some commitments that just haven't put their money, on the table yet, but we'll have that before the end of the week. So we're getting there, I just really encourage everybody to help support this project, and we'll get it up on our website as soon as we have it ready, and then we'll start showing it around to people. So,
all right,
and we'll share it, and if people want to use it for some of their presentations, certainly. Happy to let that happen.
Great. Well, Anthony, thank you for being on GODDAB Radio. We really are glad to have you on, and we're going to hope to have you on regularly to help people understand what's happening in Salem and keep them informed. Thanks a lot.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
You bet.
Well, there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Anthony, and hear a message from our sponsors. At Honey Badger Sungrown, they care about providing natural products. There are no chemical pesticides and no chemical fertilizers used in their cannabis grow, and they are motivated with a passion for natural cultivation. They take pride in sustainable and environmentally friendly cultivation and produce their product on the beautiful Willamette Valley floor. Honey Badger Cannabis is available at a number of dispensaries, including Grow High Station in Portland and Stash Cannabis Company in Beaverton. Ask for Honey Badger Sungrown products at your dispensary. You can visit them online at www.honeybadgersungrown.com. Tired of pills? We can help. At Southern Oregon Alternative Medicine, we offer chiropractic and naturopathic medicine, massage, acupuncture, and medical marijuana therapy. With clinics in 19 locations across Oregon and main offices in Portland, Springfield, and Medford, we make it convenient and easy for you too. Southern Oregon Alternative Medicine is the only clinic of its kind to offer both medical marijuana certification and full health care. You can find us online at www.soaltmed.com or southernoregonalternativemedicine.com. Or call us at 541-779-5235. Well, that's it for that segment. I appreciate Anthony sharing all that good information with us. Download part 2 and catch the interview with Jacob Bueros and our discussion on homelessness in Portland.